Have you ever had the feeling that something isn't right, but you can't quite explain what it is? That despite everything you've achieved, everything you've built, something still feels missing? You go through the motions, wake up, work, interact, sleep, yet a quiet voice deep inside whispers that this isn't the life you were meant to live. Carl Jung believed that most people do not truly live. They simply exist. They follow routines, chase goals, and play roles without ever questioning if those things align with who they really are. They mistake movement for meaning, achievement for fulfillment, and conformity for purpose. And so, they drift through life, unaware that they are living by a script they never wrote. But where did that script come from? From the moment you were born, you were given a name, an identity, expectations. You were taught what is acceptable, what is praised, what is punished. You learned to adjust, to mold yourself into what others wanted you to be. And little by little, without even noticing, you started to forget who you were before the world told you who you should be. Think about it. How much of what you believe, what you value, what you pursue, how much of it is truly yours? And how much of it was shaped by others? By parents, by teachers, by culture, by the need to fit in, to be accepted, to be loved? This is why so many people feel lost. Not because they lack success, not because they lack relationships, but because they lack themselves. They have spent so long becoming what was expected of them that they no longer know who they truly are. Jung believed that life doesn't truly begin until you find yourself. Not the version of you that follows the rules, not the one that seeks approval, but the part of you that has been buried beneath years of conditioning, the part that has been trying to break free. But this journey is not easy. Most people never take it. They feel the discomfort, the unease, but instead of confronting it, they distract themselves. They numb the restlessness with work, with entertainment, with validation from others. They convince themselves that the life they have is enough, even when a deep part of them knows it isn't. But for those who choose to listen to that voice within, for those who dare to question, to break the illusion, to seek their own truth, something profound happens. They wake up, they stop existing and start living. They stop playing a role and start being. But before you can find yourself, you must first understand what has kept you lost. Because the greatest tragedy is not failure. It is spending your entire life as someone you were never meant to be. Think about the version of yourself that you show to the world. The way you speak, the way you act, the way you adapt depending on where you are and who you're with. Is that really you? Or is it just a carefully constructed version of you? One designed to fit, to be accepted, to avoid rejection? Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to navigate society. It is the identity we construct to meet expectations, to play our roles, to be seen as competent, likable, successful. It helps us function in the world, but at what cost? The more we invest in our persona, the more we risk forgetting who we are beneath it. How many times have you suppressed an opinion to avoid conflict? How often have you smiled when you felt like breaking down? How many parts of yourself have you hidden because they didn't fit the image you wanted to maintain? The danger is not in having a persona. Everyone has one. The danger is in mistaking the persona for your true self. Because the moment you do that, you start living for others rather than for yourself. Jung believed that many people spend their entire lives trapped in their persona. They achieve success, but it feels hollow. They build relationships, but they feel unseen. They follow paths that seem meaningful, only to wake up years later wondering why they still feel lost. This happens because they have been performing rather than living. The persona is an illusion, but it is a powerful one. It convinces you that if you take off the mask, you will lose everything: your reputation, your relationships, your sense of security. But here is the truth. The only thing you will lose is what was never truly yours to begin with. You cannot find yourself if you are still clinging to the version of yourself that was built to please others. The journey to authenticity begins when you dare to ask, who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I am not trying to be anything? Most people never answer these questions. They keep wearing the mask because it feels safer. But those who take it off, those who are willing to risk discomfort for truth, experience something rare: the freedom of being fully, unapologetically themselves. The question is, do you have the courage to remove the mask? There are parts of yourself that you have spent years trying to hide, thoughts you refuse to acknowledge, desires you push away, emotions you suppress because they don't fit the image of who you believe you should be. But ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. They remain within you, shaping your actions from the shadows. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the hidden side of the self, made up of everything we reject, deny, or suppress. The shadow is not just our darkest impulses or weaknesses. It is also our untapped potential, the power, creativity, and authenticity that we were told was unacceptable. Think about your childhood. Were you ever told that your emotions were too much? That certain behaviors were inappropriate? That being too confident, too passionate, too different would make you unlikable? Over time, you learned to suppress these parts of yourself. You buried them, thinking they were gone. But nothing that is repressed stays silent forever. The shadow does not vanish simply because you refuse to look at it. Instead, it finds ways to emerge, through irrational fears, through destructive behaviors, through the traits in others that trigger something in you. Have you ever disliked someone intensely without understanding why? Have you ever judged someone harshly for something that, deep down, you might be afraid of within yourself? This is the shadow at work. Most people spend their lives running from their shadow, pretending it doesn't exist. But Jung believed that true self-discovery is impossible without facing it. Ignoring the shadow does not make it disappear. It only makes it more powerful, controlling you in ways you don't realize. But here is the most important truth. Your shadow is not your enemy. It holds everything you have rejected about yourself, including hidden strengths. The anger you suppress may contain the fire you need to set boundaries. The fear you avoid may be the key to your greatest growth. The desires you deny may point you toward the life you were meant to live. Jung taught that growth comes not from eliminating the shadow, but from integrating it. This means acknowledging it, understanding it, and allowing it to be part of you, without shame, without fear. Because when you stop running from yourself, something powerful happens. You become whole. But most will never take this step. They will continue to suppress, to avoid, to convince themselves that they are only the parts of themselves that are easy to accept. But those who dare to confront their shadow will find something rare. Not darkness, but freedom. So ask yourself, what parts of you have been buried? And are you ready to bring them back to life? Most people spend their lives searching for something: success, love, purpose, believing that once they find it, they will finally feel complete. But Carl Jung believed that true fulfillment does not come from anything external. It comes from a deeper process, one that has nothing to do with achieving or acquiring, but with becoming whole. He called this process individuation. Individuation is the journey of integrating all aspects of yourself. The persona you show to the world, the shadow you try to hide, the unconscious forces that shape your desires, fears, and instincts. It is about bringing together the fragmented pieces of who you are and becoming something greater than the roles you have played. But this is not a comfortable journey. Individuation requires you to question everything: your beliefs, your behaviors, the very foundation of your identity. It demands that you confront the truth about yourself, even when that truth is difficult to accept. It asks you to face your shadow instead of suppressing it, to strip away the illusions of the persona, and to rebuild yourself from a place of authenticity. Most people avoid this path because it threatens everything they have known. The ego resists change, fearing that if the carefully constructed identity is questioned, there will be nothing left. But this is the greatest illusion of all. The real you is not lost. It has simply been buried beneath layers of conditioning. Individuation is not about self-improvement in the traditional sense. It is not about becoming better by external standards. It is about becoming real, accepting all that you are, the light and the dark, the strengths and the flaws, without shame or fear. The person who does this no longer feels the need to prove themselves, to seek approval, to live according to expectations. They become centered, grounded, at peace with themselves. But this is a lifelong process. There is no final version of you, no moment where you are done. Individuation is about continuous evolution. peeling away layers of illusion, integrating what was once rejected, and stepping further into truth. Most people will never walk this path. They will remain trapped in old patterns, living as smaller versions of themselves because it feels safer. But those who choose individuation will experience something rare, a life that is fully, undeniably theirs. So the question is not whether you can become whole. The question is whether you are willing to do what it takes to get there. Finding yourself is not a matter of simply wanting it. It requires breaking through the greatest obstacle of all, your own ego. Carl Jung believed that the ego plays a necessary role in forming our identity, giving us a sense of self and structure. But the same ego that helps us navigate the world also keeps us trapped in illusions, afraid of change, unwilling to confront deeper truths. The ego clings to the familiar. It wants stability, certainty, a clear sense of who you are. It fears anything that threatens the identity it has built. Even if that identity is limiting, even if it is making you miserable. This is why people stay in lives that don't fulfill them, jobs that drain them, relationships that no longer serve them. The fear of the unknown feels more terrifying than the pain of staying the same. Think about how many times you have felt a deep urge to change, to step into something new, to let go of something that no longer fits. And yet, something stops you. A voice in your mind whispers, "What if you fail? What if you lose everything? Who will you be without this identity?" This is the ego's resistance. It convinces you that staying where you are is safer than stepping into the unknown. But here is the truth. Staying in a life that does not reflect who you are is far more dangerous than change. Because while change carries the risk of failure, staying the same guarantees one thing: you will never become who you were meant to be. Jung believed that true self-discovery requires ego death, not in the sense of losing yourself, but in letting go of the false identities that no longer serve you. It means surrendering the need for control, the need for external validation, the need to define yourself by achievements, roles, or other people's opinions. It means being willing to let parts of yourself die so that something deeper can emerge. But most people will never do this. They will keep repeating the same patterns, living inside the same stories, convincing themselves that this is just who they are. They will mistake comfort for fulfillment, certainty for truth. The few who break free are the ones willing to question themselves, to sit with discomfort, to let go of old identities, even when it feels like falling into the unknown. Because only those who release what is false can make space for what is real. So ask yourself, are you holding on to an identity that is keeping you from becoming who you truly are? And more importantly, are you brave enough to let it go? For most of your life, you've been searching for meaning, for direction, for something that makes you feel whole. You've looked for it in achievements, in relationships, in approval from others. You've searched in books, in philosophies, in external identities, hoping that somewhere out there, you will find the missing piece that finally makes you feel complete. But Carl Jung believed that the self is not something to be found in the outside world. It is something to be remembered. The reason so many people feel lost is because they are looking in the wrong place. They chase the idea that once they reach a certain goal, once they acquire a certain status, once they fix themselves, they will finally know who they are. But the truth is, you were never lost to begin with. You simply became disconnected from yourself. The self is not waiting for you in the future. It is not something you must become. It is something you must reclaim. The moment you stop searching outside yourself for meaning, you create space to hear the truth that has been buried within you all along. This does not mean the journey is easy. Peeling away the layers of conditioning, facing the shadow, letting go of false identities. This is the real work of self-discovery. But the greatest shift happens when you realize that you are not trying to become someone new. You are trying to return to who you were before the world told you who to be. Jung believed that transformation happens the moment you stop resisting yourself. When you stop trying to fix what was never broken, when you stop chasing a version of yourself that was never real, when you sit with your own being, without judgment, without shame, and allow yourself to simply be. Most people spend their lives running from their fears, their wounds, their uncomfortable truths. But those who stop running, who turn inward and face themselves, discover something profound. They were whole all along. The journey of individuation is not about adding something to yourself. It is about stripping away everything that is not you, everything you were taught to be, everything you thought you had to be, until all that remains is truth. So stop searching. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to become yourself. You are already here. The only question is, are you ready to see it? At some point, you have to make a choice. You can continue as you are, following the same patterns, living by the same stories, wearing the same mask. Or you can step into the unknown and reclaim yourself. But understand this, there is no halfway. You cannot awaken to your true self while still clinging to the false one. Carl Jung believed that transformation is not about self-improvement. It is about rebirth. To find yourself, you must be willing to let go of everything that is not you. The outdated beliefs, the expectations that were never yours, the fear of who you might become. You must be willing to step beyond the identity you have constructed and face what lies beneath. And that is terrifying, because what happens when you let go of the self you have always known? Who are you without the labels, without the validation, without the carefully crafted identity? This is why most people turn back. They feel the pull towards something deeper, but the fear of losing the familiar is stronger. They would rather live in a cage they understand than step into a freedom they do not. But those who take the leap, who allow themselves to break apart so they can be rebuilt, experience something rare. They wake up, they stop being a reflection of what the world expects and start existing as who they truly are. They are no longer bound by the fear of judgment, no longer seeking permission to be themselves. This is where life truly begins. Not when you achieve a goal, not when you reach a destination, but when you stop running from yourself. When you stop trying to fit into a world that was never meant to define you. When you stop searching outside for what has always been within. Most people will never take this journey. They will stay in the illusion, convincing themselves that they are free while avoiding the truth that could set them free. But you have a choice. You can keep searching, keep waiting, keep hesitating, or you can step forward into the unknown, into the depths of yourself, into the life that was always waiting for you. Because life does not truly begin until you find yourself. And now, you know the way. If this message resonated with you, don't just let it fade. Reflect on it. Act on it. Start questioning. Start exploring. Start reclaiming yourself. And if you want more content that challenges the way you think, like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe. Your journey is yours alone, but you don't have to walk it in silence. Let's keep going, together.